It's muted. There we go. All right, you should be able to hear me now. Can you hear me? Testing, testing. Testing, testing. So it's my first stream here, and we probably got to add an audio capture in here. Yeah, that's not the right one at all. Mute this one. As we wait, might as well fix this. How about now? Oh yeah, you guys can hear me now. Let's go. All right, so we got our trade set up based on some gamma exposure. Just kind of looking at the landscape here, I don't see a huge wide range. They're sort of setting up the 65s and the 7800s. This lighter color bar, that's the gamma by volume, so that's going to be the new, essentially naive OI that we're going to multiply gamma by, and then we're going to compare it to, I could probably make the contrast better at some point, but this is just how I look at it, the OI that came over from Friday, essentially. So, you know, we were already pretty bullish into the day based on the OI from Friday, and I, you know, as people kind of continue that, you can see they're continuing to add positions on the long gamma side. We keep that in mind. You can kind of see a resistance forming here, and this line is basically just tracking the history. So it started out super high, and it's kind of coming down. It's kind of squeezing a little bit. This is the zero gamma line, which is basically here. So 772, zero gamma, basically where it's chilling right now. So it's gonna have a hard time kind of going either way. Then I like to look at the prior week volume profile. So that's what this was about. You know, pulling back on a higher time frame, kind of looking at what does it look like volume wise, and trying to get like sort of an idea of what could happen. And we do see, some ideas here that like this is sort of a low volume squeezer, which is something that we traded, and it was amazing. But we're kind of consolidating here, which, it's basically just accepting higher prices at this point. But if this 25 ever breaks, I imagine there's going to be a big dip. This probably comes later in the week, I imagine. So we're just kind of waiting for some of these levels just for a little scalp today is all I'm thinking. And my guess is it's probably going to end up higher just based on many, many years of experience in how the weeks start and then how the weeks end. And typically they start out a little bit stronger just in general, and sort of get weaker towards the end, especially after, we have some big numbers coming up here on the 19th, I believe. It's going to be a VIX-X, and then the 21st is going to be an OPEX. So next week, we definitely want to be paying attention to some weakness. But this week, I'm not really expecting a lot of weakness, and it would be a week to essentially look long. Doesn't mean I'm right. A lot of times I'm wrong. But as of right now, we're definitely just sort of like in a downtrend. But we are running into this huge level. So kind of like what I was showing you, that level is pretty massive, is a clear support as of right now. If it breaks below, we can use it as a resistance and target some of these lower spots. But for now, it's a put wall, and it's a giant volume shelf, as they call it. So we'll kind of just sit here, wait for these EMAs to potentially flip. My guess is we can pop through here, maybe run some stops there, and then come back in here to to test this level. Maybe see some drift into the end of the day. Maybe we can trade that. You could try and trade this now, but you could scalp this into these EMAs as it's popping up into them. Kind of like right here, you could have scalped that for 7-8 points, something like that. But I prefer to use the levels as confirmation, and then the EMAs just literally is just trend. And so once the levels pop, that's when we can essentially activate the trade. But until then, I don't really want to be messing around in the middle. So we're literally right in the middle of everything. 772, and this may be how it is all week. I could be starting my live streams literally at the worst possible time, which is just perfect for the market. You know, literally doing everything at the worst possible moment. You buy when they're selling, you're selling when they're buying, is how it goes. Sorry, I don't have my chat up here, so I don't know if there's people actually saying anything. Probably not, but you never know. Sort of the reason I'm doing the live stream is just so I can get some trading content for later on. If we were going to take a trade, no idea. We do have Palantir hitting 178, which, according to my research, was going to be a huge level. So we'll end up seeing if this ends up generating a sell here. We'll just put that there because this was definitely a potential. This was a call wall ceiling. It's going to drive people crazy that are OCD. And it could see as low as, I think, 157 was what we were looking at here. This was the put wall floor. So looking for a sell here potentially. So we'll put a little alert there in case I miss it. Just so I can go in here and buy some puts on Palantir. My watch list is basically comprised of about 15 stocks, give or take, at any one moment. I don't like to watch more than that if I can help it. I do scan here and there for outlier stocks, but as of right now, I'm basically just tracking this basic watch list here. I will have a face cam soon. I couldn't figure out how to do the background this morning so that you guys don't see my bedroom, which was weird. So I will have a streaming location at some point in the next month or so if people are actually end up watching this live stream. If not, it'll end up just being a content factory for the YouTube content in the future, which is the main reason I started doing it anyways. So I do want to show people how to potentially pass these funded accounts with Apex. Right now I'm doing a $300,000 challenge just to see if we can pass this in the next 5 or 6 days. Just using some of these basic trading methods and a little bit of patience. It's going to be hard to do it this week if it's going to be like this all week, low volume. There wasn't a lot of gamma to move the market today. It's going to be low reactions to everything. Small ranges. It's going to be choppy. Basically, we're already seeing that. The first 20 minutes, we haven't even moved. So this is what I expect the week to end up looking like. Most days, I expect it to either be flat or drift higher with potential late afternoon moves just because of Charm and Vanna starting to hit in with OPEX next week. OPEX, whatever you want to call it. We'll see if, let's go take a look at this profile. So yeah, we're seeing outsized positioning to the upside here. And we see this squeeze here occurring. 772 again. So here at around 9 o'clock is when the first move starts kind of occurring. They've kind of already set this range here. If you do, opening range theory or whatever it is, you've got 770 and 84, which is pretty close to what my initial levels were anyways. So I'd be looking for this to kind of break out, and we may trade these EMAs if we break up above them, sort of cross over and come back down into them. And the one thing I'm thinking about is that this stream is not, it's quite a delay on this stream. So if you guys are going to try and follow any of these trades, just know that I think there's about a 10 or 15 second delay. Obviously not financial advice, because yeah, do not follow me on these trades. But I did want to show people how to use this gamma tool from Gexbot to just kind of look at the live positioning and kind of use that as a gauge to get some context on what the day is like. There is a lot of bearish positioning right here that kind of filled in the OI from Friday. So people are getting hedged, and then people are looking to get long. So still kind of leaning long. The EMA is not leaning long, so we don't really have a very clear situation here, and we're just kind of diddling in the middle, which is just great. As long as we chilling on the sidelines, I don't really care. We'll see if we can find a decent trade. Again, you could scalp these EMAs. I mean, look at that. That's another 6 points. I'm not really a big fan of the scalp. That's, to me, it's either like you're more of a trend or a swing trader, intraday swing trader, or a trend trader, breakout trader, or you're a scalper. Scalping takes a lot of work, and to be honest, passing Apex Eval is probably easier to pass them by scalping, just to be honest with you. But I just don't like scalping, so that's probably my big downfall. But I mean, it's okay. We are getting some movement here in the last 10 minutes here into the 9 o'clock. There's another scalp. Let's just see what they do here at 9 o'clock. Maybe some volume comes in here, and let's take a look at some volume here. I don't know why I don't keep the volume on here, just because you see it's dribbling down, which is pretty typical. Right in the 9 o'clock, you can see it's the same kind of thing here. It's usually just nothing for 30 minutes. Let's see. Oh, wow. Yeah, down, 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 down. Friday, they didn't even start. They didn't even start anything until lunch, at least volume-wise. So, imagine just a bunch of chop today. Pretty decent volume. It's not even near as much as it was Friday to open. So we'll just chill and see what they do at 9 o'clock. If they can break some of our levels. Again, this level here is probably just going to bounce, I'm guessing. You can see it bounced once, twice. They tried to break it intraday on Friday. Right back up again. They've just been chilling on this level. And that is sort of like this put wall they're developing here. Again, I don't mess around with SPX put walls. If they got a put wall right there, I don't really care what the rest of the technicals say. I'm going to go ahead and buy the put wall. So got my finger on the trigger here, and we'll see if they can spike it down there. We could even put a buy order in here. We'll put a little stop there just in case. We've seen moves. Opening range was 10 points, and so we don't really want to be setting our stop much further than 10. And we have this this sort of protecting us over here, so we'll hopefully be good here if they spike this down. If they can even move it outside of the opening range, the 15-minute opening range. Now, a lot of times I've seen into OPEX, this is what ends up happening, is we end up creeping along sideways in tight range for days upon days, and nothing happens. The only trade I saw today is SpaceX off of that 140, and that one's just almost down 10 points here, so I imagine PLTR looks the same. We're waiting for that thing to pop our alert, if it even can. Hopefully it can. But we're not going to take bearish trades on SPX just because SpaceX and Palantir may be bearish. We do see Semis is bearish right now. I think mainly because like your SanDisk and your Micron probably bearish. Intel probably bearish just in general, but not really like put worthy. It could be, I guess, but probably not for like swing puts. Mainly because the expiry for next week is going to be just full of calls that are just slowly dying every day, and they're not necessarily in the money, or like the majority of them are not in the money. So they're every day goes by, that theta is just eating them away. The theta and the vol crush actually ends up hurting the calls. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a sell, like people are bearish, but it's going to be really hard for it to go up. So every time it pops, potentially could just short these semis, at least in the OPEX. The only reason I know that is just because I've been doing this for a very long time. I could tell you that without even looking at the data, just based on how it's moved this year. They were able to kill it off pretty good a couple weeks ago. And so that right there just destroys the momentum. You got to kind of wait for all those calls, those Momo calls, to kind of expire, and then you could probably potentially get back in for another rip. But we'll kind of see what the market looks like after next Wednesday and then next Friday. I imagine there'd be some weakness of volatility in those 2 days, and then we can potentially look at getting long again for another hopefully extended move to the upside. So if you are positioning long, I would be getting long after next week, at least in your expiry selection, and potentially looking for some hedges that are further out, like maybe like November, December, just being long vol in those time periods. Because I was looking at a chart the other day, and the vol in November, December are extremely cheap, and so you can buy cheap hedges and then get long here after next week. There we are. We can even get down to this level. Again, moving right into this little confluence of EMA bands. You could probably sell this, but we're 2 minutes from 9 o'clock, so I'm going to wait till that 9 o'clock hits. Maybe wait till like 9:05 or something. We see some buying occurring in some of this stuff. I'm not going to use this as like a gauge, like, hey, they're buying MicroStrategy, so crypto's bullish or being supported, then I imagine the rest of the market gets supported in some way. These aren't really selling off. They're just kind of sitting probably right at their put walls, I imagine. I think MU's was 860 to 900, so yeah, somewhere between these two levels is where it's chopping. Literally right at 860. Yeah. Intel's was 97. Look where that's at. I think it was 97.50, something like that. So it's sitting right at a put wall, just chilling. 330 is a call wall on Tesla, so you can see it's just hanging out right there. This looks like a pretty good short right there, honestly, on Tesla. It already tried once though, so I'm gonna be okay on that one. This one can't quite get to that level, can it? So I'm tempted to try a short here then. The only thing that's really doing well is this Microsoft. Meta was up. They sold that off. Google kind of hit sort of a floor from Friday. Nvidia's down. Nvidia's a hard trade. Apple's a hard trade. Google's a hard trade. Amazon's a hard trade. Meta's a hard trade. These four are pretty decent, I think. Curious if Nebius is any good here. Look, there's the pop. Take out the OB range high. See if we can break out here. If not, we're probably just chilling. Yeah, everything's a hard trade right now. Now's a hard trade. I mean, look at that. It pops, buy calls. It sells off, buy puts. It pops, buy calls. So on and so forth. You got one decent 4 point move since Friday. And then it's just been sideways all weekend. all open. So there's the pop. They took out the high. I don't know if they're going to be able to even move this market today. Like I said, of course, you know, we start the live stream on probably one of the worst weeks possible, but I really didn't have a choice. I need content. So, well, there's an MU pop right there. So that kind of helped SPX get over that opening range high. Palantir's selling off that 178, kind of like what we thought. Microsoft. It's really crappy right now. Just look at the picture here. Yeah, I mean, everyone's just long gamma. So, like I said, I kind of just imagine just a dribble higher to 7,800, but we'll just wait for these EMAs to kind of line up for us. They're starting to kind of look this way, so we'll see a pop, come back down. Maybe we'll try and get long on a 5-minute candle. Something decent. We couldn't, that 9 o'clock hit, it didn't do any kind of, you know, quick movement or stop run or anything right into our level. So they may be moving the level a little bit higher. Obviously, we don't have the means of like tracking something like that that well on TradingView. That TradingView is bad, but you can kind of see this huge level here. They're just kind of buying the dip into that, and they'll probably ride this up higher. So we're just going to wait until we can trade above this level, because this is going to be a chop zone. This may be a flush. It's looking pretty good. If this candle closes right here, this is pretty good. We'll see if they can close that there. And we may be able to get in just underneath this breakout level and see if we can take out the highs, head to that 7,800. Couple minutes here. Palantir, weak. We'll see what else. See what this looks like. Yeah, I mean, they're the gamma, this Scion level, the gamma by volume versus the gamma by OI, which is going to be the gamma from on the OI from Friday. So these are decent indications, but we're just basically looking at positioning from Friday. What we want to try and do is overlay the Gex volume in order to show us the new positioning. Now, this is all assumptive. I know Gexbot and the guys that created this, I'm pretty sure they have done a really good job of trying to classify orders as they come in. And so you're going to have, I think this is probably one of the tools that you're going to have the best chance of actually knowing the true positioning or having a good fix on it. There's a couple different ways to look at it too. I really like this one, looking at the gamma state. And this is going to classify sort of intention. So right now, there is a huge, well, we got to look at it. There's a huge lid on the market at 87, according to the gamma state. Now, this level is very volatile, meaning if it breaks through, it's going to rip. And that's interesting. It coincides with basically this volume level here. So someone's trying to hold this market down. So because of this, we're actually going to start leaning into a sell. Now, I can still pop here, and we'll get another short in here if it tries to take out this high. We'll put some stops up here. The previous stop run. This was a stop run right here, so we'll just go right above that. Hopefully it doesn't head that high. So gamma state, take us down to 5,100 potentially. So that's one way to sort of add some context to, wait, is this long gamma going to act as resistance, or is it going to be one of those things that drift us higher? And so we just kind of answered one of those questions. I think there's someone trying to put a lid on this thing here, 87. It probably, you know, there's a very good chance that I get blown out here. but the market's been acting very weak. I imagine people try to buy calls into this 5-minute breakout. They're going to run right into a resistance. This breakout probably doesn't work, but that's my read on it right now. So we'll see if we're right. Need to figure out a way to get super live streaming. Got some buying here in MU. SanDisk off the lows. Palantir still bully. SpaceX got bought up at 130. We're still going to play off this. We're going to play off this resistance here at 87. This can either be a ripper. It's a 78.15, or it's going to be a resistance, and we can see about getting a buy off 77.50, which would mean that this level is actually going to break, which would be amazing for us, by the way, because that's a huge move. That's a huge move. I'm down for it. If you are looking to trade, just let me know in the chat what you're looking at today. I actually got my chat up now, so I can actually see. It's not on the screen. I wonder if I can add it to the screen. That would be so nice. Let me see here. I'm kind of new to the whole like docs, view, stats. Don't care about that. Stream, can't. Studio mode, don't care about that. I should record it. No, it's being recorded already. I sure hope. Well, I can see it here, so. We are potentially getting short here at this 87. And the reason is because it's got a huge 87 resistance here, short gamma. So this could work out very badly where this pops and rips, which I'm kind of terrified of. But I've also seen these levels work out really well where there's a big reaction here. So if we're looking for a reaction, it's potentially coming soon. We're going to look to get short here. We got our stop, and our target would be somewhere down here in the 50s. And this would just be glorious. It would definitely ruin some people, which is what the market wants to do. So we got two people in here, my friends. Where do you guys come from? Where you going? What you doing? What you trading? How long you been trading? Are you from America, or am I getting people from like India or something? Trying to rebuild this trading community again. I've been out of it for a while. At one point I would have like 20 or 30 people in a stream, but I didn't really do it very much. All right, here we go. We're going to play for the fake out. Now, is this the right move? I don't know. We're not into it for very much money. We're just testing it out. The 87, let's see. They dropped it a little bit, so they may be getting out of the way. Okay, we're in for 2. And we got to leave a little bit of room for it to kind of maneuver around and see if they can. There's a couple ways this has helped us out today. Oh, I lost them. People left right before this thing's about to do something. So the 87, 88. Kind of trading around this 87, 88 basically. So we'll see if that thing becomes a thing. It looks like, we're in dull market mode, so this may be an actual breakout occurring here. And I'm all for it too, so we'll wait for this 5 minute. Hopefully they don't blow me out here in just this 5 minute candle. We'll see if we can catch the reversal. I mean, it's running into a ton of short game. Are these short calls, I wonder? Is that what's going to happen as a squeeze? Let's see if we can get a better feel for... no, I think it's this one that we look at. Yeah, these are short calls. So no one's really getting long call. You can see that people bought some calls there. They bought some calls there. They're selling calls there. They're selling calls here. So we definitely don't want to be trying to buy into the weakness here. Definitely some weakness. We can see basically we avoided the early sell here just because we knew that this whole area was sort of a big support. And then we're trying to avoid the fake out with what I'm seeing here in the call side. Now, hopefully. Now, they are retesting this breakout level here that I put earlier. It's worrying me that they're going to spike this thing, actually. And so, but because we see that there's so many short calls here that it's either going to be a short call squeeze or it's actually going to add to resistance, and we're gonna dribble down lower. Hard to know. I think what I want to do is actually get long, because the original plan was to target this level. So we're gonna add a sell there just before it. We'll see if they can pop it up to the 78.15. Now I do see that this goes up to about 78.15, this whole zone here, and that aligns with sort of just this crazy long game that people are in. It sort of gets a little bit, obviously as we get up there, the gamma bars are gonna get bigger here, but looking like potentially 78.22 is a high. So we'll see if they can keep this puppy going. And I think we're down 300 just testing that 87, but I don't think that 87 resistance is going to, I think it's more of a short squeeze than anything. Especially got to lean that way this week, given that OPEX is next week. So hopefully it turns out that way. Hard to be long anything, any kind of directionals today. I mean, I guess you could have bought some MU calls. If you came in with Palantir calls, you're feeling decent, I guess, even though they opened it lower. SpaceX calls got liquidated today. Obviously, they did well into the 140s. Here's this resistance coming in, but I feel like this is going to actually make a move here soon. And I think it's towards the upside because you're in so much long gamma now that, yeah, they're going to sell rips by dips, but in general, that's going to be vol compressing. And when push comes to shove, vol usually loses, especially if you're short a bunch of calls, which is what we already saw. I mean, we saw some crazy short call positioning here if we look at just the massive amount of negative orange, essentially. First, like real put resistance here that we see, short put resistance. Even that, I mean, your short call, short put, this thing doesn't really have a lot of resistance until about 78.15. There's really not that much resistance there, 200 calls right there. So most of this is squeeze. Most of this is potential squeeze. We have to play potential squeeze into the vol compression. If you try to overly short, just in my experience, if you try to overly short with VIX at 15, even though it's green today, the reason it's green is because these calls are short. And so as we're sliding up the skew, let's take a look at what skew looks like here real quick. I hadn't looked at it today. As we're sliding up the skew, we're seeing vol get lifted. And so right now, we can see this is ours right here. You can see the call side is lifted up kind of near that 7,800. So that's probably, we end up, what ends up happening is VIX gets lifted. All the skews are getting lifted because you have so much short call positioning. And I don't think, it does, there's some puts right here too. So, that is some resistance there, some long put. But essentially, the vol just compresses everybody and it leads to buyback. Let's see if there's any buyback going on. Any buyback going on? We do see that the market is trending higher, but we don't see the aggregate DEX really moving right now. And in fact, it's headed lower. So I think what we want to do is start getting short. Let's just get rid of these EMAs. And we're going to trade the top of this range here. Because we see the aggregate DEX go lower, there's a big divergence occurring right now underneath the surface. Convexity is getting absolutely massacred. Usually a good time to actually buy it is when it's getting destroyed like this. And then you have some positive gamma right here. It's not that much, 2,300, and it's actually been coming down since 9:05. So the last 10, 12 minutes, this thing has been trending lower, and you did not get any kind of delta buy going along with this move higher. So 74 to 88, 14 points up, and this actually ended up going down. And so we're going to treat that as a divergence in the market. We're just trying to answer some questions about whether or not these calls get squeezed now or later or what. We sort of have our volume context, our technical context here to work with. And so we're just going to keep playing it by ear, because as the market kind of evolves, we started getting more answers to our questions about what's going to occur, especially in a slow market. Fast market's a little bit different. Obviously, we got to trade those, be a little bit more prepared. But in a slow market like this, you can see there's not really a lot of volatility in the gamma, but we are seeing some selling going on into the long gamma situation, into the vol compression situation. There's zero convexity. Basically what this means is nobody is expecting a move today to the downside or to the upside. No one's really getting long convexity. They're not really getting long out of the money calls or puts. And we can see that here. There are some long puts here, 77.50. But for the most part, it's short call situations. So if we add the gamma state here, we do see that 87 is still there. And it doesn't look like the delta divergence really matters that much here. So we're really not going to be worried about it too much. There's no volatility here. So a couple of losing trades here as we test the market. And we'll just go back to the original idea here. Potentially head higher. They want to crush the market. So far today, we're probably, what are we down, 350 or something? Yeah, it's not bad. We get $7,500 to work with, so not gonna. And we'll just kind of keep an eye on some of the order flow going on here. We'll see if we can get an early indication on what's going to happen in the order flow. So let's break this out into two. And we'll see if we can catch any kind of early indication about what's going on. We're just going to kind of watch some of these stonks here as well. I mean, as far as EMAs go, if you're just an EMA trader, you're just buying this crossover here. So hard to argue with that, especially with our upper targets here. There's some convexity, a little bit of a buy there, but the last time that happened, it just sold off again. So I don't know if I trust that one. Not seeing much of anything going on, just a slow drift higher. 23 is a potential, just from the positioning on Friday. So we can have another target up there. So we'll try to extract as much as we can from this from the slow market. Look, here's the little bit of a sell here, but it's 2 points. Not worried about it. I feel like a lot of times you get sort of a warning signal in the actual stock somewhere, but I'm not seeing any warning signals in anything decent. The only thing is NVIDIA potentially as a warning, but it's really not that bad. And AMD still hasn't even broken the earnings low of 470. It could, but this thing ripped, so I imagine there's a lot of profit taking going on in NVIDIA. And we'll just sit here. In an ideal world, we just buy all the way up. So unless there's, well, here's the nice 5-minute candle there. Let's go back and look at the order flow. Yeah, they're just continuing to sell this thing. So we're not going to sit here and get rugged. I know that. If we break back underneath this 86, I think we're going to go short. Let's go ahead and just follow the gamma here. Buy the dip. Some convexity. You can kind of see what's happening. Like the convexity's popping, and the market starts selling off here. But we're still so negative. It would take a ton of convexity buying to be able to get this market to pull lower. Gamma is headed lower. Still positive. That fake out right there was what I was afraid of. I mean, you had a decent flag there, and it popped off of that flag and then sold off. That's the 1 minute situation. Decent flag there, pop. Okay, well, we're getting some sellers in here. So we're going to go with it. We're going to see if this volatility has any, this convexity has any leg. It definitely has support from the Delta side because they are selling. And I'm here for it. And there's the fake out on the downside. Literally right where I bought or I shorted. And that's all she wrote. We're going to wait. We're going to wait. We're going to wait. We'll see if this lid on the market takes it back down again. If not, we're just going to get out. I'm trying to marry the position here. They still got crazy sellers here. They're selling puts too, though. That's the other thing. The red line, and they were buying calls. It's a little bit of an indication, even though that's a net delta sell by a lot. We'll see if this thing can go negative. Well, we kind of got destroyed there on that short. And I'm just going to stay patient because I know that this market is going to be very, very difficult this week with this chop. You know, these 5-minute pops, these 10-point sells, and in general, it's very difficult to trade like a normal person. And they're definitely selling it, but the problem is that they're selling right into, you know, like essentially dealer support. So you got a lot of selling happening, a ton of selling. Like you don't really see an angle like that on the deltas, but you know, this is making me think there's going to be a significant drawdown here soon, and we definitely want to be there for it. We're actually gonna layer in another short here. We're just sitting here on the 1 minute, and so just trying to read the room, and the room is looking at more and more bleak for the upside, and so. You know, you do have Microsoft carrying the day here, which is you know, definitely a thing. You have Tesla doing pretty well, which is a thing. But you're not going to have MU just sold off again. So they had the squeeze off of that 860 right back to that, basically that 900 that I was talking about earlier, and sold off again. And this is what I imagine the market looks like for most of the day. Stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead and just be patient here. Let's see if these deltas end up actually being able to overwhelm the market. Doesn't look like it's going to. Not with that move right there. Take out some stops. So that's right at 9:30. It's typically another, you know, sort of a hedging timing. And so a lot of times you see sort of the reaction happen at about, it's either 8:45, 9, and 9:30, and then into 10:30. So what I'm looking for now is either we hit 7,800 by 10:30, or we actually sell off and hit 7,750 by 10:30. So not sure what's going to happen. It's hard to imagine them actually selling this off right now, given the support that's obviously clear here. But we'll see. Everybody's getting faked out here, it seems like. So I'm just going to assume I get faked out as well at some point, the way the market's moving. Are they trying to go after these my stops? This level right here is sort of where the break occurred. So there's probably some shorts here, which means their stops are probably up here. So we probably want to move our stops a little bit higher just in case they pop us. We definitely don't want to be part of the group that gets popped here at 93. It looks like there's some buying going on here, so we're going to go ahead and get out, and we're going to go with the market. Just put our stops somewhere, just in a decent spot. Really back where they kind of caught people short, caught me short. And our original plan is actually playing out, which is a lot of times what happens. Is the original plan is usually the best plan. And, you know, we took some 1,500 drawdown, sort of tested the market, seeing what's going on. And we'll see if they can let this thing go now. Take us higher. We do have the EMA support, so we'll just kind of chill here. Prior highs, 96. Like I said, there's shorts here. That's their positioning, so their stops are somewhere here. The problem with breakout trading in a market like this is it never really just starts breaking out. It's just like this slow grind. That's why I really never like trading to the long side, because of how slow it moves. You know, the long gamma trade is just so boring. But we'll stick to the original plan here, because those deltas are not mattering that much. And the market's still going up. The price is still headed higher. And in fact, the deltas have turned, maybe bottomed out. If they're done selling for the day, we're probably just going to rip higher. And we'll just kind of wait and see what the market has in store. Looks like definitely just in pure long gamma here. There's a little bit of resistance here at 97-ish, 7,800. But this thing can move to about 78.24. So we're just gonna wait. Remember, we're talking about short calls here. So they broke out at 87. Now they're headed to 98. Potentially. Let's throw this in the 5-minute here. I think once Microsoft gets to about 520, you'll probably see the resistance come back in the market. Here's that 178 on PLTR. See if we can buy some puts on PLTR here, if they're decently priced. This would be for Friday. That's a long ways away, isn't it? But you can buy the 165 for 68. And they probably go to 10, I'm guessing. And so I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Buying the 165 put on PLTR 65. And we're just going to let the SPX just head higher. You do have Microsoft sort of reaching a top there. But that does not mean that SPX goes down. That is for sure. SPX and Microsoft have not necessarily been correlated all that well. We are going to be shorting this Palantir, so put that in the new section there. And they're going to give us a hard time about buying this breakout here. But our original plan, we're just going to stick with it. Now we just need to chill, which is the hardest part. State here, 98. It's about right there. Just right at that 7,800. It's a really short game of the whole way up. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even seeing any real stock volatility. I mean, I'm seeing some movement here in MU, but it's just kind of chopping in between its call wall, put wall. We see SpaceX 4 points off the lows. Tesla's just pinned at 330. Semis are green for the most part. Memory's green. Data center's green. Social media ads are green. We should add some more sections here. So, like, these are data centers and memory and chips. Those are decent. Oracle, I don't even know what Oracle falls into. Mag 7 is here. Put that there. SpaceX, Palantir, fund trades. Just to kind of organize this a little bit. There we go. Now, imagine if they pop this 7,800. Like, I'm pretty sure it's going to 68. We're going to start selling out into this. And then we're going to let one run. Hopefully to 78.23. So that's the goal here. Actually, just say it's there. So we may end up slightly up today if this trade works out. If not, I think we got to be done for the day because I have a meeting at 10 o'clock. Let's see, 78.28. I'll be right back. Sleeping cats. Oh, yeah, sleeping cats.
Are you live streaming?
Yeah.
Did you pause it?
No, I just turned the sound off, the mic off. Well, they're making this very difficult because you are running into, if we run back, let's get rid of that. Let's add the profile back in. The weekly profile, we're basically running right into just this huge glob of volume. And so every time they try to sell it down here at this breakout area, the volume gets thinner up here, but the volume is thicker here. So it's hard to see the drawdown occur. Especially we're just kind of trading this range now. I'm probably just going to dribble down and pin this 66. Going to be a very difficult trading, kind of like what I've been saying. We're just going to try and just stay patient, try not to lose too much money. We've had a couple chances to take $1,000, which is nice. I was kind of hoping to be able to trade the trap a little bit further down. It is a little bit risky to do that right now, but yeah, I mean, so once again, we're trading this sort of like an implied value area high. When we look at volume profiles, people teach it differently. I kind of look at it as like, okay, well, there is sort of an implied value area here between these two levels, and so there's another one sort of right here, kind of a lower version of it. But the big one is obviously here. So we're trading at the value area high from last week, effectively. Now I know most people look at the value area as like 68% or 70% of the total volume. So that the true one is really at 78.10. But and then if we ended up there, we would definitely be trying to look for shorts in this kind of market. But this one right here, as you can see, the volume is very, very similar the whole way up. And so we're just looking for either this is going to be a breakout or it's going to be mean reverting back to here. And we know that there's probably a lot of longs and shorts here. So this is sort of like a magnet, at least on the volume side. Now, options wise, could be a totally different picture. Right now, the options market is bearish in general. There's just lots of, just to keep it simple, lots of purple lines, right? A lot of people short gamma. And so it's essentially the way I look at it, it's just like a bearish tape in general. And it's we're just going to be trying to play it by ear. You got the EMA support here. So like as far as just technicals, people are going to be looking for this sort of breakout up higher. But when we look at the sort of the internals with the volume and the options, it's not showing that picture right now. And so just kind of playing it by ear, losing money right now in general is okay, as long as we're not getting blown out, and sort of just playing this slowly. Right now we're playing for this downdraft here. Again, we've had a couple chances to take profits, but they are using that volume area as sort of a support, potentially to just take this higher. But you never know. If they start taking out my stops, that's why they're there, and we'll just reevaluate later. And we did see that SpaceX did sell off from like 136. Tesla's still chilling. You got NVIDIA breaking 220, which not necessarily great. Microsoft actually reverted back. It was trading like 515, which was very bullish looking. AMD still sitting at a put wall from last week, and so Even Nebius sold off a little bit. Not seeing a lot of real bullish action just from the big guys, and even some of the speculative stuff. So Palantir probably the strongest out of all of this, but that's because this week Palantir's expiry is over the next 90 days. It's the biggest expiry, even compared to next week OPEX. So if I was going to be trading anything, at least for a fade, it would be Palantir puts this week, and we'll look for something else next week. But as far as the tape overall, looking very, even though the price action has been very choppy, it definitely doesn't look great. So it's going to be this pre-week, pre-OPEX week, chop and crap. Just got to be super patient this week. The breakouts are coming. In my opinion, I think there's going to be a lot of great fades that are going to occur, especially into next week. But we just have to be super mega patient and just trade the A+ setups for this week, which again I say is Palantir puts. And you still got 4 days on those. I mean, so even if it trades up to 183 tomorrow or something like that, it still doesn't mean that it's not going back down to like somewhere around 157, 158 this week. Very, very possible to do that in just a day. So any one of these days, I expect a big down move in Palantir. SPX, as usual, very, very hard to take down, especially after already seeing a lot of volatility into this OPEX. So you still have to be super careful of the Vanna charm flows that could potentially come in and just rip this market up again. But those usually come in from the lows, not the highs. And so you want to really be watching the put wall, in my opinion, on SPX. Any put walls in SPX want to be super careful around. They sort of set one here, again, at that 773, which was the zero gamma earlier. So we'd want to be watching that one. 773, somewhere around here. And just looking for a bounce there. I'd love to take profits there and then look for reversion higher. So, yeah, pretty tough market. You can see they're actually buying the zero gamma earlier. So they sold off the call wall right into zero gamma, and so it's all just kind of playing together right now. They're just messing around and chopping around and repositioning and whatnot. So just trying to play it as logically as possible, as data driven as possible, as patient as possible. Can't make the market do what you want to do. I would love for it to just go ahead and just sell off here, but very, very hard to predict that or see that. So just continuing to look at the data, continuing to just try to ask questions, answer the questions with the data. Again, and then being able to just be flexible and pivot when needed. So see the IV of the mid. It's a very very different than normal. Having a structure like this is indicative of for me. There's some longer term positioning being taken already into October, and some volatility into October actually pretty elevated, relative. I guess it's flat relative to the last 90 days, but which means I guess it could just mean complacency. Don't hold me to anything I say. This is literally just me spitballing right now. There's the downdraft again. Let's see if they can. They're right there at this longer term EMA on the 1. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. I guess this was all people buying the dip on the 5. Right here at this 81. So that whole thing was just sort of a consolidation, sort of a buy the dipper situation. They're right back into the OB range, the opening range of 15 minutes. But we're just trying to stay with the levels if we can. and the context. Here's another chance to take $1,000. So we've had essentially 3 chances here to take 1,000. I see this a lot with my trading. Most of the time, it's been a mistake to go ahead and take the initial move off the level. Sometimes it's the right move, so sometimes it's hard to know whether to let it go or to just go ahead and take the profits every time. Some days I'll be at the end of the day, be like, man, if I'd have just taken the 10 or 6 or 9 points off that level every single time, I would have been up huge. And then sometimes I'm pissed because I didn't let it run. And so just sort of that's the hard decision. But if you're to the decision to where your only decision is whether or not to take the scalp profits or the swing profits in a sense, I think you're in a pretty good spot because that means your level is good, right? And so there's probably a mix of the two that I can take. So like I could take some profits here, sort of take some risk off the table here at these lows on the one, or we can see if this actually can get some downdraft going. In general, if I'm in this position and I see the deltas have just not been able to lift at all, I'm assuming there's probably a big buy waiting lurking somewhere, and they're trying to find it. And again, that 66 to 73, this level right here is sort of where I think it's being drawn to. And so far, this has been playing out exactly what as I thought. Again, here we could have taken the profits and just chilled. But here's the thing: if I take the profit there and it doesn't come back up to my level, then I miss this whole section. This is going to be another 15 points or so. Now, but if I would have just taken the profits each time, you just never know if it's going to bounce back into that level or not. And so this just comes into like, okay, is it the trader in you talking, or is it the analyst? Now, the analyst says you just let this go. The trader, you look at the P&L and you're going, oh gosh, it's $1,000. They've given up like 3K already. But the analyst says it's probably coming down here. So just got to listen to the analyst side of you. The analyst is actually the better trader than the trader in you. That's my experience. Now, in general, we can see that at least the standard deviation here is these are out of line, and so I don't imagine this actually being hit today. But if this starts coming down and those start going in the money, there's definitely a chance. But as of right now, they are outside of the standard deviation move. So that 65, 66 is likely to be a really good buy. And so we definitely want to I could be wrong here. We definitely want to start putting some buy orders down here in case this thing just decides to drop. So here we are again, trying to test again another chance to take $1,000 off that level. But now essentially we're a good, 30 minutes into this consolidation, and it's only getting, the picture's only getting worse, really. They are accumulating here on this longer term EMA, and so if this ends up becoming a buy, I would be surprised, but that is the risk here, and so we don't really want to be adding to shorts right there, but we can let our 5 position sort of run for now, and see if we can. If our original thesis was we started trying to go up to the 7,800, that ended up working, and so did not trade this very well, this move, personally, but also didn't get caught short here either earlier. After they started selling it off, I knew that it was big resistance, so we started getting short into this move just slowly, and as it was working, we started getting short, and then playing off of this 86, every time it came in, we just added to our short. But now I'm a little bit, as big as I want to be on the position, targeting these lower levels, just because of that 5 minute, and we probably have some 15-minute support as well. And so I'm not a big fan of shorting into the EMAs, just because, gosh, I mean, how often has the EMA worked for people? So don't want to be caught short into what is overall actually a trend up. So, and it's a pretty strong trend up. So if we are going to be short, we want to be short with smaller positions. Now we are playing we prioritize, in general, we prioritize the volume profile over anything. But we also want to get some context from the options market, which is showing some support, showing up here at 777. So we'll see how that reaction goes, which is literally just going to be right where these probably some stops are from here. And so we'll see if they try and take a profit here at 777. But we also are trying to target the big point of control from last week. So they ran some stops right there, bought it back up. Now, these sometimes are perfect alignments, but sometimes it's just indications. So someone came in with some real positive gamma there at the low. But we are on a 1 minute. If I'm on the 1 minute, a lot of times the candle looks great, but it's literally just like 2 points. So I'm not too worried about a big movement, but that did look like a little bit of a stop run right there at 779. Ran the stops, basically just clearing out liquidity. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a reversal, but it definitely could be. But there is some positive gamma showing up here on the gamma chart, so definitely want to watch that. This essentially means that people are long convexity. So people are either long puts here, and then we can kind of check. See it, that 777. Yeah, they're long puts. We're looking at the delta. So these are negative delta. So I'm guessing that people are short here. There's a little bit of a vacuum here where people are sort of at equilibrium. So again, just kind of supporting the idea that this area is sort of the area where I think you're trying to go to, just because that's sort of the agreement on price. So yeah, they're long put here, down to about 68, 67. So we do want to see about buying into these levels for now. So let's see if they can take our. How many stops do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, perfect. Start bringing those down a little bit. Reduce the risk. Let's see if we can. So now we're up 16. So because we didn't take profits, we are in the position a little bit safer for now. Safer, yeah. It's not a thing in the market really, but we did get beat up a little bit on our Palantir. We shorted literally right at 78 call wall, literally right here. I ran about $1.50 against us, but right now it's right back at that call wall. This is a resistance area. Doesn't necessarily mean it's more like an area like this with a pinpointed. The way I look at it is this is let's see. I'll see if I can find it. Now it's saying 182, but the read that I was looking at was 178. So it's kind of this 185 to 180 area. But the read from Friday was 178 was actually the ceiling. So I take the trade off of the read that I made, not off the current one. And so we're still sitting short on it. We've got 4 days on that put. So definitely want to be a seller here in Palantir. Let's go back and look at SpaceX here. 135 was the ceiling, and we can see basically, they ran it up to 140, but then they came back up to 135, sold it off again, and your floor is actually 120. So the 130 was from Friday, but this is actually saying this has room all the way to 120, and that's by Friday. So definitely not a move for today, but a potential swing. There's some more buying going on there. Off that stop run. So there's probably some liquidity there. But we have the EMAs on our side now, so like fully. And nothing's really happened except for we've just sort of been seeing the initial strong move and then sort of just this retracement. So if we were just looking pure technicals, you've just got basically just a flag that occurred. And so we're just going to stay with it until we get some alternative evidence. People are long to 60. Probably long puts. I'm guessing. Yep, they're even getting long here in the middle. Some support here at 60. So we'll try to be completely out of this by 60. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll get cute here and try to buy 60. And then maybe we start getting long here at 60 if they get it down to that level. Of course, at this point in time, at least on the short term, everybody else is probably thinking the same thing. And so got to be careful. And again, we got to remember that the lower we go, the more puts become a thing. We're right here at 0 gamma, which is 80. And every time you dip below there, it's going into the short gamma world. And so, if people are really skittish about being short right now, every time it dips below, they're taking profits. Every time it dips below, they're taking profits. So just sitting here at this 80, you guys can kind of see that a lot of times during the middle of the day, if it's a low volume, it'll just chop here all day. So just going to wait and see. At 774 is the new support. Even Friday, I was kind of just looking at the back test on Friday, and they couldn't even touch the put wall. Every time it got close, basically they got squeezed, and it couldn't even touch the line. So I'm seeing a similar sort of action right here that Friday, where every time it tried to drop down into the short gamma world, it was a buy. And the problem is positioning from Friday is still positive. And obviously that's a different story. These positions have changed, but that's the OI from Friday. It was still positive. So you're still sort of in a positive zone until under 72. So here we are again. Could have taken profits at 1600, but we're still below the level. And so these 6-point rippers and these moves on the 1 minute, that was basically right off of that EMA. They ran some stops. They took it back down to sort of where the open was. It's a pretty good level to be a buyer if you're a scalper, for sure. We kind of see sort of just this downdraft. I would be really... Hold on. Man, if you're Momo, you love this 4-hour chart. That's for sure, because you're getting a chance to buy this 4-hour fast EMA band. That's basically, it seems like that's where everyone's kind of positioning right now, right off of that last little support there. And you could basically just get along here and potentially take out the highs at some point. So again, we're short still, and we're long down here. They didn't quite let us get that 7-7 profit take. Not yet, anyways. 10 minutes till lunch. So my guess is that's going to be a lunch draw. They literally took it to this 778 and then popped it. That's crazy. So my initial profit take would have worked if I would have just looked at it a little closer and done something like that maybe. So we're going to keep it there Let's just maybe see if this is a draw or not. We still got overhead occurring, and you got the EMAs sort of rolling over. Again, we are overall we're bullish. And this is how quick the fortunes can change. I literally walked away for 1 second.